The chamber was grand, its high ceilings adorned with holographic constellations representing the United Galaxy. Delegates from dozens of species occupied the council hall, their appearances as varied as the ecosystems of their homeworlds. At the center of the room stood humanity's envoy, Ambassador Callan Reed, a figure of calm professionalism. His tailored navy suit and deliberate tone contrasted sharply with the heated arguments filling the air. The Schreckner Dominion's recent posturing is more than mere aggression, Reed began, his voice cutting through the din like a scalpel. It is a destabilizing force threatening the harmony we have worked centuries to build. I urge this council to address these provocations through collective diplomacy before it escalates further. Across the room, laughter echoed. The sound came from Gralvik, the Schreckner representative, his insectoid mandibles clicking in amusement. Diplomacy? Gralvik hissed, his sharp, chitinous body shimmering under the council's lights. Deathworlders, always so soft-spoken, despite your reputation. Tell me, Ambassador, do you think your words will matter when your allies cower behind treaties? Reed didn't flinch. Diplomacy isn't weakness, Representative Gralvik. It's wisdom. Wisdom? Gralvik mocked, leaning forward. Your kind hides behind words and treaties, afraid to show your fangs. Perhaps that's why you're tolerated. Because you don't act like Deathworlders should. A murmur rippled through the council chambers. Deathworlders, species hailing from planets of extreme environments, were rare and often feared. Their physical resilience, adaptability, and resourcefulness made them formidable. Yet humanity had become the outlier, choosing cooperation over conquest. Their reputation was that of builders, not destroyers. Reed had long since grown used to this perception, but today it grated at the edges of his composure. Our history speaks for itself, Reed replied, measured but firm. When we've acted, it's been to protect life and preserve peace. But make no mistake, peace is our preference, not our limit. The tension in the room was palpable. For centuries, the galaxy had relied on humanity to mediate disputes, diffuse conflicts, and innovate solutions. Despite humanity's Deathworlder origins, their actions were marked by restraint. It was a source of both admiration and disdain among the council's members. Many saw humanity as the glue that held the galaxy together. Others, like the Schreckner, saw them as a species too cautious to use their strength. Gralvik waved a dismissive claw. Enjoy your debates, Ambassador. Words won't stop what's coming. As the Schreckner delegate exited, the council session dissolved into whispers. Reed stood alone at the center, his jaw tight, but his expression unreadable. The whispers continued long after the session adjourned. Most of the galaxy's species had long since abandoned violence as a primary means of resolution. Their planets, shaped by stability and abundance, had allowed their natural instincts for survival to fade. It was humanity, the outsiders from a chaotic, brutal world, who had stepped into the role of protectors, negotiators, and problem solvers. But even protectors have limits. The following week, the galaxy's worst fears were realized. Aerith Prime, a colony under humanity's protection, was attacked. The Schreckner Dominion, true to its word, had unleashed a brutal assault, reducing cities to ash and slaughtering millions. The transmission that reached the galactic networks was horrifying. Soldiers in dark Schreckner armor stalked the streets, laughing as they destroyed homes and desecrated bodies. A commander's voice rang clear over the screams. Where are your kind words now, humans? Where is your diplomacy? Is this how Deathworlders beg for mercy? The video's final moments lingered on a battered human child, barely alive, cradling the lifeless body of their parent. The Schreckner soldiers laughed as they left the scene, leaving no doubt about their message. The galaxy reacted with shock. Many species issued formal condemnations, while others called for immediate intervention. Humanity's response, however, was silence. For days, the human delegation refrained from public statements. Speculation spread like wildfire. Were the humans too stunned to act? Were they finally broken? Or were they preparing something else? When Reed returned to the council chambers, his demeanor was different. The calm restraint that had marked his earlier appearances was gone. His shoulders were stiff, his jaw clenched. The usual warmth in his voice had been replaced with something cold, something sharp. He stood before the assembled species, his words deliberate and cutting. The Schreckner Dominion has massacred millions of our people, destroyed a peaceful colony, and mocked our every attempt to maintain stability. They have made their intentions clear, and we have heard them. He paused, letting the silence hang. The weight of his words was suffocating. Let the record show, humanity offered peace. Humanity extended its hand in cooperation. The Schreckner Dominion has made a grave error. They believe our kindness is weakness. They think our restraint is fear. Today, they will learn the truth. Reed's voice lowered, each word a dagger. You've made a mistake you won't live to regret. With that, Reed turned and left, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. For centuries, humanity had been the galaxy's mediators, the calming voice in chaos. Now, for the first time, they had spoken without restraint. Something had shifted, and every species in the room could feel it. The chamber was quieter this time, tension replacing the usual buzz of debate. Delegates leaned forward in anticipation, their gazes fixed on the human representative. Most expected a plea for unity, a call for collective action against the Schreckner Dominion. After all, humanity had always been the voice of reason. Ambassador Reed stood at the center, but this time he wasn't alone. Beside him was General Elise Marca, a figure of imposing presence. Her uniform bore no unnecessary embellishments, but its simplicity carried authority. She was not here to appeal. She was here to deliver humanity's verdict. Reed's voice was steady. The Schreckner Dominion has committed an unforgivable act of aggression, slaughtering innocents and desecrating the very principles this council stands for. As such, humanity has made its decision. We will not request aid. We will not wait for a consensus. We will act. Murmurs erupted. The alien delegates, unused to such directness, exchanged uneasy glances. Reed raised a hand to silence them. This is not a call for war. It is an acknowledgement that war has already come. Humanity will respond in kind. Marca stepped forward, her gaze sweeping the room. For too long, humanity has restrained itself in the interest of peace. We have endured provocations, insults, and now a massacre. We chose diplomacy because we value unity, because we hoped that reason could prevail over violence. But the Schreckner Dominion has mistaken our patience for weakness. That ends today. Her voice hardened, each word carrying the weight of a declaration. For centuries, we chose restraint. For decades, we endured slights. Today, we remind the galaxy why Deathworlders survive where others perish. The chamber fell into stunned silence. For many, this was their first glimpse of the side of humanity they had only heard about in whispered stories. The calm negotiators were gone, replaced by a cold, unyielding resolve. Even as the council dissolved, humanity wasted no time. Across their colonies, fleets mobilized with precision that left onlookers speechless. What had been assumed to be outdated ships, relics of a bygone era, were revealed to be state-of-the-art war machines, hidden behind false exteriors to mislead potential enemies. Massive carriers, sleek frigates, and dreadnoughts emerged from fortified hangars, each armed with cutting-edge weaponry that had been quietly developed under the guise of civilian research. Alien allies watched in awe and a touch of fear as humanity transformed overnight. Their engineers activated orbital shipyards that had long been thought dormant, constructing additional vessels at an astonishing rate. Their military AI systems, previously known for logistical efficiency, demonstrated chillingly precise tactical simulations. Some allies offered assistance, but humanity declined with uncharacteristic firmness. This is our burden, Reed explained in a brief statement. Our message to send. The galaxy need only observe. Reports began filtering in from intelligence networks. The Schreckner Dominion, buoyed by their success at Aerith Prime, was dispatching fleets to other human-aligned systems. But they would not find unprepared victims this time. The first major engagement occurred near Proxima Theta, a mining colony critical to human infrastructure. A Schreckner fleet, confident after its earlier conquest, approached with the expectation of minimal resistance. Instead, they encountered a human task force waiting in the shadows of the system's asteroid belt. The humans struck first, their ships emerging from the debris field with startling speed and precision. Long-range railguns pierced the Schreckner's shields with pinpoint accuracy, while drone swarms overwhelmed their defensive systems. Each strike was calculated, each maneuver perfectly executed. Aboard the Schreckner flagship, chaos erupted. Officers shouted conflicting orders, their tactics unable to keep up with the humans' relentless assault. It wasn't just superior technology, it was the humans' ability to adapt, to exploit weaknesses in real time, that dismantled the Schreckner fleet piece by piece. By the time the Schreckner attempted to retreat, it was too late. Human ships cut off their escape routes, herding them like prey. The battle ended with minimal losses for humanity, while the Schreckner fleet was annihilated. Survivors were captured, their accounts later spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. They were predators, one Schreckner officer reportedly said during an interrogation. They watched us panic, studied how we moved, and then they struck. Not like warriors, like hunters. Word of the skirmish reached the Schreckner High Command, shattering their perception of humanity. What had been dismissed as a weak, overly diplomatic species was now revealed as a force to be reckoned with. And this was only the beginning. Back on Earth, General Marca addressed her troops in a private broadcast. Her words were meant for human ears only, but they encapsulated the spirit of the moment. We didn't choose this fight, but we will end it. The Schreckner Dominion wanted to see the strength of Deathworlders. Let's show them what that truly means. Across humanity's colonies, soldiers prepared for the battles to come. Engineers worked around the clock, refining weapons and fortifying defenses. Civilians volunteered in droves, donating resources and skills to the war effort. It wasn't just a military response, it was a unified one. The Schreckner had expected resistance. What they hadn't expected was the full weight of a Deathworlder species unbound. The galaxy watched in awe and terror, knowing that humanity had only just begun. The galaxy reeled under the weight of escalating conflict. The Schreckner Dominion, stung by the loss of their fleet at Proxima Theta, launched a campaign of terror across human-aligned space. Civilian planets were targeted in a brutal attempt to break humanity's resolve. Entire cities were incinerated from orbit, populations displaced, and ecosystems devastated. For many, it seemed the Schreckner's cruelty knew no bounds. But humanity was no longer reacting. They were countering with a vengeance. The shift in their approach was both swift and overwhelming. They adapted to the Schreckner's tactics with frightening efficiency, transforming themselves into the ultimate predators. Where the Schreckner relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, humans turned the war into a masterclass in strategy and psychological warfare. Supply lines, critical arteries for any war machine, became humanity's first target. Small, fast-moving strike teams infiltrated Schreckner-controlled space, hitting depots, convoys, and refueling stations with surgical precision. Their use of drones, stealth technologies, and improvised tactics left the Schreckner scrambling to defend routes they had once taken for granted. Schreckner supply ships vanished into the void, their crews later found drifting in the wreckage, if at all. Manufacturing hubs suffered mysterious explosions. Communications networks were disrupted, sowing confusion and panic among their forces. Alien observers chronicled these tactics with a mixture of awe and trepidation. One report described how human operatives planted false intelligence that led the Shrekner to ambush their own reinforcements. Another recounted how human drones, mimicking asteroid debris, infiltrated a Shrekner station and released electromagnetic pulses that crippled its operations. The Shrekner soldiers began to fear humanity in a way they had never feared another species. Stories circulated of human units appearing and vanishing like ghosts, striking without warning and leaving no survivors. They became known as the Invisible Predators, a term that carried a weight of dread even among the Shrekner's hardened elite. Nowhere was humanity's strategic brilliance more evident than at Zorthra Pass, a resource-rich planet critical to both sides. The Shrekner Dominion had poured enormous resources into taking the region, deploying an army that outnumbered the human defenders 10-1. The terrain was rugged, with steep cliffs, dense forests, and winding ravines, conditions that might have seemed disadvantageous to the defenders. But humanity had learned long ago that Deathworlders thrived in the harshest environments. The battle began with the Shrekner advancing confidently, their overwhelming numbers supported by armored divisions and aerial support. But the humans had prepared the battlefield meticulously. Traps and ambush points littered the terrain, concealed by the natural features of the pass. As the Shrekner forces advanced, hidden mines detonated, splitting their formations. Electronic warfare scrambled their targeting systems, turning advanced weapons into liabilities. From the cliffs above, human snipers and drone operators picked off officers with precision. Entire sections of the Shrekner army were funneled into narrow ravines, where orbital strikes rained down with devastating force. The carnage was absolute. By the time the battle ended, the once proud Shrekner force had been reduced to scattered remnants, retreating in disarray. The humans, though battered, held the pass. But Zorthra Pass was not without controversy. As the Shrekner regrouped for one last push, the human commander, Colonel Iris Yao, made a grim decision. Rather than risk the planet falling into enemy hands, she ordered a scorched earth tactic. Explosives were set to destroy the mines, refineries, and supply depots that had made Zorthra a valuable target. The Shrekner would gain nothing from their efforts, but the planet was rendered uninhabitable in the process. The decision sent shockwaves through humanity's allies. Zorthra had been more than a battlefield. It had been a home to millions of settlers, and its destruction, though strategically sound, was a harsh reminder of the cost of war. In the aftermath, debates flared among the Galactic Council. While some praised humanity's ingenuity and effectiveness, others questioned the morality of their actions. A heated exchange erupted during a council session, with alien delegates demanding accountability. A representative of the Kasari, a longtime ally of humanity, spoke with visible frustration. "We understand the stakes, but destroying an entire planet to deny resources? Is this what it means to be a Deathworlder?" General Marka, present as humanity's voice, met the criticism head-on. "War is ugly," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "It's easy to moralize from the sidelines. But when millions of your people are slaughtered, when your homes are razed to the ground, you realize that survival comes at a cost. The only thing worse than fighting like this is letting atrocities go unanswered." Her words carried a bitter truth. While many species in the galaxy had moved beyond war, humanity's history had taught them its harsh realities. Victory didn't come without sacrifices, and the alternative, submission to the Shrekner's cruelty, was unthinkable. Still, the ethical dilemmas lingered. Some allies withdrew their support, unwilling to be complicit in humanity's ruthless methods. Others, while uneasy, recognized that humanity's actions were born from necessity, not malice. They were fighting for survival, for justice, and for a future where such atrocities would never be repeated. Through it all, humanity pressed forward, adapting to each challenge with relentless determination. They knew that the road to victory would be long and brutal, but they also knew that they could not falter. The galaxy was watching, and so was the enemy. The Schreckner Dominion, once confident in its ability to crush humanity, now faced an adversary that was turning the tide of war. And as the humans struck deeper into Schreckner space, their message became clear. The cost of underestimating Deathworlders was far greater than anyone had imagined. Humanity's fleets arrived at Schreckner Prime like a storm on the horizon, an unrelenting tide of dreadnoughts, carriers, and strike groups. The sight was overwhelming, even for Allied observers monitoring from the edges of the system. Schreckner Prime, the jewel of their empire, bristled with formidable planetary defenses, orbital weapon platforms, shield arrays, and countless fighter squadrons. But the humans were prepared. The assault began with calculated precision. Humanity's ships unleashed a volley of pinpoint orbital strikes, targeting key defense systems with surgical accuracy. Unlike the Schreckner's indiscriminate massacres, these attacks were methodical, sparing civilian sectors while dismantling military infrastructure. The planet's shield generators collapsed one by one, and the great orbital platforms fell in blazing trails of wreckage. The most awe-inspiring part of the fleet was the Dreadnought-class ships, city-sized behemoths that seemed more like mobile fortresses than spacecraft. These vessels, long hidden from the galaxy's knowledge, carried experimental weaponry that defied imagination. One dreadnought, Aegis Eternal, unleashed a kinetic projectile from low orbit that struck a Schreckner command hub with such force that seismic waves rippled across the surface. Allied species, watching the battlefields from afar, were both awed and terrified. The humans had kept their military capabilities obscured for centuries, masking the extent of their technological ingenuity. Now, those secrets were revealed, and the galaxy struggled to comprehend the sheer power on display. Schreckner forces launched a desperate counteroffensive, throwing everything they had into the fray. Swarms of fighters and heavy cruisers attempted to break humanity's formation, only to be met with coordinated responses that turned their numbers against them. Human AI systems orchestrated the fleet's movements with flawless precision, predicting enemy maneuvers and exploiting every weakness. On the surface of Schreckner Prime, chaos reigned. Command centers went dark as human cyber warfare teams infiltrated their systems, severing communications and turning automated defenses against their own forces. Key supply depots erupted into flames, targeted by precision strikes that left civilian areas untouched, but crippled the planet's ability to sustain a prolonged resistance. Realizing that defeat was imminent, the Schreckner Emperor called for an emergency council of his generals. His once confident demeanor was gone, replaced by desperation. After hours of heated debate, he broadcast a plea for negotiation, hoping to salvage what remained of his empire. Humanity responded with chilling clarity. Ambassador Reed's voice carried the weight of every life lost on Aerith Prime. There will be no negotiations. Unconditional surrender, reparations for every life you took, and the dismantling of your war machine. Those are our terms. You will accept them, or we will leave you nothing. The Emperor's reply, defiant and laced with venom, sealed his fate. We will never kneel to Deathworlders. Within minutes, humanity deployed a new weapon that shocked even their allies. An EMP barrage, launched from the dreadnoughts in low orbit. The pulses rippled across the planet, neutralizing all electronic systems. Entire cities were plunged into darkness, their towering spires silenced. Schreckner military vehicles ground to a halt, their systems fried. Orbital satellites fell from the skies, burning up as they entered the atmosphere. The Schreckner people, once proud and unyielding, found themselves powerless, their empire's technological backbone shattered. The Emperor, surrounded by his advisors in a powerless command center, was forced to send a second message. This time his tone was broken. We surrender. The galaxy held its collective breath as humanity's fleet ceased its assault. A delegation of human leaders landed on Schreckner Prime to formalize the surrender. Among them was General Elise Marca, her expression as unyielding as her words. Your reign of terror ends today. You thought humanity was weak. Now you understand the cost of your arrogance. The Shrekner were left to dismantle their warships, disband their armies, and rebuild their society under strict oversight. Reparations began immediately, with resources and technology funneled to humanity and their allies. The once mighty Shrekner dominion was reduced to a vassal state, their influence a shadow of what it had been. In the aftermath, alien witnesses described the haunting silence that had fallen over Shrekner Prime. The great cities still stood, but their lights were gone, and their people moved like ghosts, stunned by the scale of their defeat. Fields of wreckage stretched for miles, where human strikes had obliterated military installations. The Allied delegates, many of whom had questioned humanity's resolve, now grappled with a different reality. Humanity had not just fought back, they had ended the Shrekner's ambitions entirely. For some, this was a moment of vindication. For others, it was a stark reminder of the power humanity had restrained for so long. General Marca, in a rare interview following the war, reflected on the consequences of their actions. We didn't seek this war, but we couldn't allow the Shrekner to continue unchecked. They underestimated what it means to provoke Deathworlders. Now they know, and the galaxy knows. The Shrekner became a cautionary tale, their name synonymous with hubris and destruction. And humanity, once seen as the galaxy's peacekeepers, was now viewed through a lens of both respect and fear. Deathworlders had shown their full might, and no species would dare provoke them again. The galaxy's collective memory has an enduring cornerstone, the day the Deathworlders stopped being nice. This tale, passed down through generations, evolved into countless interpretations, each reflecting the biases and fears of those who told it. To the Kesari, longtime allies of humanity, the story was a somber warning wrapped in admiration. Their archives recorded humanity's calculated ferocity and relentless pursuit of justice as a necessary force against unchecked aggression. They did what we could not, one historian noted. In humanity's rage, there was purpose. They broke the Shrekner not for revenge, but to prevent further atrocities. Other species told the tale differently. The peaceful Myrics, whose own history had long abandoned violence, saw humanity's actions as a terrifying demonstration of what Deathworlders were capable of when provoked. They are the galaxy's apex predators, one Myric scholar declared. We must be thankful that their mercy outweighs their fury. For the Shrekner, the story became a shadow that loomed over their cultural psyche. Their once proud empire was now a fragmented state, subservient and humbled. Shrekner children grew up with whispered warnings about the humans who came from their death world to bring ruin. Remember Aerith Prime, they would say, and remember how we fell? Across the galaxy, storytellers embellished the events, adding their own interpretations and biases. In some accounts, humanity was portrayed as vengeful monsters, a species that unleashed horrors unimaginable in their quest for dominance. In others, they were saviors, warriors who reminded a complacent galaxy of the cost of hubris. Among humanity itself, the reflections were more complex. A retired officer, Colonel Iris Yao, spoke in an interview decades after the war. Her voice carried the weight of countless battles and difficult decisions. We didn't choose that war, but when it came to us, we made a choice to end it on our terms. Aerith Prime demanded justice, and justice demanded strength. She paused, her gaze distant. Do I regret the lives lost? Every single one. War isn't glory, it's sacrifice. But I don't regret reminding the galaxy that kindness is a choice, not a weakness. And when kindness is met with violence, you must remind them why they should have chosen peace. Yao's words echoed a sentiment that had grown within humanity. Their dual nature as both peacekeepers and warriors had become a defining trait. For centuries, they had chosen diplomacy and cooperation, offering the galaxy solutions that avoided bloodshed. But the Schreckner War was a grim reminder that humanity's restraint was not infinite. The Galactic Council, which once viewed humanity as the calm mediator among quarrelsome species, now regarded them with a mixture of respect and unease. Treaties were rewritten, alliances strengthened, and new policies enforced to prevent future conflicts of such magnitude. Humanity's technological advancements, revealed during the war, became a source of fascination and fear. The dreadnoughts, once hidden in secrecy, were now symbols of humanity's might. Allied species sought humanity's guidance in defense strategy, while others quietly invested in their own militaries, hoping to never need such power, but unwilling to be caught unprepared. The Schreckner War became a staple of historical education across the galaxy. Young cadets in military academies studied humanity's tactics, marveling at their adaptability and precision. Diplomats cited the war as an example of the stakes involved in misjudging intentions. And for countless civilians, the story remained a cultural touchstone, a chilling reminder of what could happen when peace was shattered. Among the common people of humanity, the war left a lasting imprint. Veterans returned home carrying scars, both physical and emotional, from their encounters with the Schreckner. Memorials were erected on every major human colony, honoring the fallen and commemorating the sacrifices made to secure peace. On Aerith Prime, now a rebuilt beacon of resilience, an inscription read, "We endure, but we do not forget." But the galaxy's fear of humanity was tempered by their enduring compassion. Despite the devastation inflicted during the war, humanity poured resources into rebuilding the regions affected by the conflict. Even Schreckner Prime, though broken by its defeat, saw human-led efforts to restore its ecosystems and stabilize its infrastructure. "It's not for them," one human aid worker explained when asked about these efforts. "It's for us. We don't want to be remembered only for the destruction. We want to be remembered for what we build after." Over time, the story of the Deathworlders' fury became legend. In hushed tones, parents across the galaxy told their children of humanity's dual nature. The lesson varied depending on the speaker. Some warned against provoking Deathworlders, while others praised the strength it took to end tyranny. But the story always ended the same way, with a chilling reminder of humanity's capacity for both peace and war. The Schreckner War was a defining moment, a line in galactic history that no one dared cross again. And though humanity returned to its role as diplomats and innovators, the memory of their wrath lingered. The final lines of the tale became almost universal, spoken by countless narrators in countless languages. And so, every species still tells stories about the day the Deathworlders stopped being nice, because they know it could happen again.